could become less valuable. That's part of the equation. And I think that's also what happened a little bit here. I understand why some fans are going to look at this and say, my team couldn't beat that. First of all, he did have some small protection, so certain teams wouldn't be there. And secondly, Nil made a point of making sure he went into a situation. But I would bet there's some other teams here that would also be pretty disappointed they couldn't get Marchment. I heard there was a lot of interest.
So, basically you bring in 4.5 with the Duchesne deal, you ship out 4.5 with the Marchment trade. And they still got a number of decisions to make here. There's still a deal to be worked out with their captain, Jamie Benn, as we believe. They're going to look to get something done, and that marriage will continue. But they still need bodies under contract to fill out their roster here, Elliot. So what else do you anticipate from the Stars as we move forward?
I would expect that Bork gets more of a role. The other thing about Dallas is they can always find guys who want to play there at a low price, right? Like, it's Dallas. It's a good place to play. It's a good team. So I think you sit there and you say they're going to be able to squeeze some guys in if they need to. Look, we're going to see what they do with Dumba. Do they move him? Do they buy him out? The buyout window opens Friday, and there's a few situations we're going to be looking at there. Robertson, at this point in time, I expect the Stars more to take a run at signing him as opposed to trading him. But don't forget, you can go 10% over the cap in the summer, right, Kyle? So It's not like you have to make those decisions now. You can kind of see what happens around July 1 and then figure out what you need to do. The other thing also I would say about Dallas is I think they're going to interview some external candidates now for the head coaching job. I would expect that Neil Graham, the head coach at Texas, I still think he has a shot at the job. I know they interviewed Nasruddin. I'm not sure about Nasruddin. I think Graham does. I'll say this about Alain Nasruddin. One thing that's come pretty clear in this whole coaching situation now is people like the job he does. But I think now they're going to go to some outside candidates. I still wonder about Gulletson. That is one I wonder if they interview him from Edmonton. And a couple other coaching things. I heard that Steve Spott, who was in Dallas, he could potentially end up in Boston. And I heard some rumors that Todd Nelson, who was coaching Hershey and won a couple Calder Cups there, he could end up in Pittsburgh. So we'll see where all these things go.
Gotcha. And we learned on Thursday that newly retired Nick Bonino is joining Dan Hughes' coaching staff in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, he announced that. That was an interesting story.
Yeah. Of course, won his 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins in 16 and 17, and now part of the coaching staff as he makes the transition to the next phase of his career.
And really put Harner Ryan Singh on the map.
Yes, well, no, as he said to Harner Ryan, he goes, "You made me famous with the call." So
they were good for each other.
That's right.
Good for each other.
Yeah.
That was a mutually beneficial partnership.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Lino's a really smart guy. I could see him being very good at that.
Yeah, amazing. A wrestler in high school. He was 5'2" at one point, Elliot. Fought in the 100-pound weight class and then hit a growth spurt. But, has fought for everything he's gotten in hockey to this point, and now into coaching. So congrats to him on a really great playing career, 868 games, and now to the next phase. That's interesting about Spot, though, Elliot. Like, that would be the first time since the 14-15 season he would be part of a staff that does not have Pete DeBoer as the head coach.
Sometimes I think that's a really good thing. Look at Mike Sullivan, right? He split from Tortorella, and it's nothing to do with. Sometimes you just have to dive into the deep end on your own.
For sure. You mentioned the buyout window opening today. Is there anything specific you're keeping an eye on early, or we just waiting a bit?
Well, I think the one everybody is kind of focused on a bit is TJ Brody from Chicago. Like I think incredibly highly of TJ Brody as a person. He just didn't play a lot, and he'll have a close to 100% hit of his salary next year, and then like nothing the year after. So I think that's one that we're all kind of looking at. I think people are looking at Justin Hole, Detroit. We mentioned Dumba before. Those are some of the names we're looking at. Philip Grubauer of Seattle. And Grubauer's cap hit next year is supposed to be 5.9. They actually save $4 million next year and $3 million the year after. And then when the cap really goes up, they have to put on an additional 1.7, but you could handle that. Those are the names that I'm kind of looking at.
Okay, gotcha. As you know, right shot defensemen are always in high demand, particularly ones that are still very much either entering or in their prime years. So that brings us to Noah Dobson, an RFA,
Yes.
do a new contract with the Islanders, 1 year away from UFA status. What do you think happens there?
Yeah, I think the Islanders have a bit of a decision to make here. I have heard quietly that the Islanders are testing the market on him. I think they just want to know. I know there have been a lot of Romanov rumors, but I've had a few people tell me that Dobson is the guy really to keep an eye on. And at this point in time, I don't even know if they do it, but I think they know if he is what he can be, he's an 8-figure guy, right? And since you're a year away from free agency, you've got a few different things you can do. You can sign him now and then trade him later if it doesn't work. You can try to go for a 1-year deal and walk him right to free agency. But that's risky because you could really upset the players. We saw with Swayman. Arbitration is a really hard thing. Or you can deal him now. And I think the Islanders are investigating all possibilities. I think they know he's going to be an 8-figure guy. So the Islanders have to decide, are we going to pay that, or is someone else going to pay that?
And you think Dobson being the one that they're looking at, because in theory that could command the type of return they may be looking for as they try to get back to being a playoff team after what was a rough last season?
Well, I think that they intend to compete for the playoffs next year. And if you're subtracting Dobson from your team, it better be for a return that people look at and say, whoa, that makes sense. So that's what I think they're doing. I think they're trying to find out what's out there. Now, I do think teams have asked them about Romanov. I also think that price is very high. But also, Romanov is not going to be in a salary structure that you're afraid of. And again, I don't think you're afraid of Dobson's number if you feel he's going to produce. I just think the number you're going to commit to with Dobson, it's a big, big, big number. And I think the Islanders want to know what all their options are. All of them.
25 years old. In theory, a lot of good hockey